Oscar with OQ Detailing. In today's video, we're going to show you a couple professional tips and tricks on how to detail a Lamborghini Urus or the like. These tips and tricks are going to help you maintain the vehicle and also use the best processes so that you can achieve the best result, giving a professional looking detail to your vehicle, or if you're doing it for someone else. So follow us along. Okay, so as you can see, we have these awesome looking wheels wrapped in this Pirelli tire. And one of the main things is these Lamborghinis, they have carbon ceramic brakes. And because they have carbon ceramic brakes, one very important thing is not to use an acidic based wheel cleaner. So there's a lot of detailers who don't really distinguish the type of wheel they're working on, especially when dealing with carbon ceramic brakes. You don't want to use anything too harsh because it can stain or damage it. So you want to go the least aggressive way or least aggressive method to the most aggressive. And so yes, they produce a lot of brake dust, but at the same time, you don't want to use something like an acid-based wheel cleaner because, again, it can stain the carbon ceramic brakes, which we do not want to do. All right, so now I'm going to show you some tips and tricks so you can clean the wheel really well. As I mentioned earlier, these wheels, because they're sport wheels, because of the huge brake calipers and disc, they produce a lot of brake dust. So, first and foremost, I mentioned no acidic cleaners. You don't want to use too high of alkaline if you don't need to. Again, start with the least aggressive method. Now, you may have one that's a tire and wheel cleaner. I usually do, but in this case, we have a degreaser on one hand, so we're going to go ahead and apply that on the tire. This helps remove all tire dressings and the tire blooming, that browning on the tire. And as you see in most tires, they have these lip, this space between the wheel, the rim, and the tire. So you want to make sure you get in there as well, let it dwell. And then want to pre-spray with our cleaners, brake buster. You want to go ahead and pre-spray the barrel inside. Then go ahead and get the wheel face. As we're doing that with the degreaser, we're going to get inside the liner and the wheel well. Let that soak as well. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get our tire brush and start agitating the tire to clean it. So again, starting from the lip, want to get that lip, and then moving our way out, we agitate the tire. Okay, then we get a different type of brush, and we just want to clean inside this wheel well. This one's not that bad, and this one has a felt lining, so we're also going to use our pressure washer to clean that off. And then just to give us more lubrication, cleaning power, and dwell time for the chemical. Now, as you see, these rotors, this brake disc, these brake rotors, they're huge. So there's a limited space between the brake, the rotor, and the amount of space so I can clean. So you want to use a brush like this. This one's a little beat up, but so that you can be able to go ahead and get all the way to the back. Make sure we get everything. Tackle it from the different angles. Make sure that you don't leave anything behind the spokes. We want to go ahead. Okay, so now we're gonna get our other. You're probably gonna need different types of brushes. You get your wheel face brush, and we make sure to agitate the wheel face, getting everything going in a single direction clockwise. Get inside the lug nuts. Want to make sure we get the lug nuts. A lot of brake dust likes to hide there. Thankfully, these were not crazy dirty, so they're regularly maintained. Okay, and here's a huge tip. I'll try to zoom in later, but there's a space between the front of the face of the wheel and the barrel. This is like a lip. There's a little space, and it's very hard to get any type of brush behind there. So you can do different things. There's different ways to go about it, but you have yourself a good wheel cleaner. What I like to do is just go ahead. Always wear gloves. That's actually one of the most important things. I see a lot of detailers who are very skilled and call themselves professional, but they don't wear gloves when they're using chemicals. Those chemicals will harm your health long term. It's unprofessional. So sorry I had to throw out there. But anyways, take your finger and all the agitation you're gonna need. You can just go ahead and get it done. Go at it from every angle with your fingers. So, and this is very important because brake dust really likes to hide behind there, but it's really hard to get brushes in there. You can get a towel or just different things, but again, and then the last thing is we want to clean this brake caliper. So we're gonna get a smaller brush, and all these tools will be linked if you want to get them yourself. And we want to make sure we get the brake caliper, and we're ready to rinse. So we're gonna go ahead and start outward in. So start with the wheel well. Okay, and here's a bonus tip, because again these type of wheels produce a lot of brake dust. What's one thing we could do to mitigate and prevent and keep them clean a little bit longer? Brake dust, prevent it from getting really caked on in the wheel. We use a spray on rinse off sealant. So you can use Geon, you can use Carpro, just various ones. So basically you're gonna go ahead and spray the wheel barrel, inside of the wheel, and you want to get these tight loose spaces where brake dust likes to hide. We get the face, and then we get the brake caliper. Let it do it for about 15 seconds. This is a sealant, and the way it works is when it comes in contact with water, high pressure water preferably, that's when it activates and it bonds to the surface. So I don't have to buff it in or rub it in. It works just by water, using water. So, and if you zoom in, you can see how it repels and is hydrophobic. So our next step is to go ahead and use our foam cannon to apply foam to be able to start breaking down and emulsifying the loose dirt, debris, whatever's on the paint. Let it do it for a couple minutes, then rinse it off, and then foam it again, give it more lubrication so that when we do our contact wash, there's less friction that needs to be applied. The less friction that needs to be applied, the less chances of swirl marks or micro scratches that you may induce on the paint. So that's the thought process behind this step. Now that we let the foam dwell for a little bit, we're gonna go ahead and rinse it off. Also, by using the foam as a pre-wash, the foam has a little bit more cleaning power, so it's able to remove more of the traffic film, more of the grime, compared to if you just pressure wash it to wash it off. So that's another of the added benefits. Okay, so now we're gonna add foam one more time and start our contact wash. It's time for the contact wash. So just the way of the gravity and the way things work, you always want to start from top to bottom. So okay, so this is not Karate Kid. You don't want to do wax on, wax off motions. You don't want to go in circular motions. You want to do single strokes like this, up and down, from top to bottom. Okay, so for this car, we're using this Kamikaze style sponges. These sponges are extremely soft, softer than any sponge you've ever It's really hard to convey it on camera, but this is our bucket here, and it has two forms of grit guards. So it has the grit guard, the dirt lock around the edges here, and also has one down here. So this is what a grit guard is. And a lot of people use 2-bucket wash method, which is fine. However, most of the time they use it improperly, and the reason why is on their other bucket, which only has water for cleaning their wash media, they simply dunk the media in the water and then come out, and then they come to their soapy solution, their soapy bucket, and then they go back. It is pointless to have a grit guard if you're not going to use it properly. Almost pointless. So the point of the grit guard is you take your wash mitt, which has the dirt, the contaminants here from the car, and you have to rub it. You have to rub it in the side walls, these side panels, and at the bottom, because these grit guards, the purpose of them is to dislodge those contaminants from the wash media and get them trapped behind or below at the bottom of the bucket, and it prevents them from going back up. So those dirt particles don't come back up and get mixed in the, cross-contamination in the soapy solution. So you don't take those dirt particles that you just took off from the paint and once again introduce them into the paint when you go back to washing your car. So this is very important. I see a lot of people just dunking and going back. So some people say, oh, well, you only use 1 bucket. Yes, but we do a safer wash because we're pre-foaming, and then we're actually scrubbing, which is magical. After you're done rinsing the vehicle, in order to dry the car, there's 2 things we need to know. First of all, the type of towel you use is very important. So the difference between many low-entry, low-cost detailing and professional is we always use the top-of-the-line equipment for the best procedures. Now this is a twist loop, and it's a high pile, so it's a hybrid. Now the best type of microfiber towel for the most absorbency is a twist loop. However, they're not known for the most plush, the most softest. And this one is a hybrid. If you can kind of tell on camera, it has 2 patterns on it. So this one from the Rag Company is a hybrid. It's called the Gauntlet. And because it has the plushness of a high pile microfiber and its twist loop at the bottom, this is why it's my preferred towel to use. The second thing is you need to use a drying aid. So a drying aid is basically something we're going to use to give lubrication so that when we slide the towel on the paint, there's less friction that needs to be applied. The less friction needs to be applied, the less chance of any sore marks or micro scratches from happening. So here we have a product called Tech 582 Ceramic Detail Spray. Now we have it in this Bead Maker bottle, but you can see it's yellow, so it's Tech 582. This ceramic detail spray is by far the slickest product out there. I've yet to use anything slicker. It's amazing. Bead Maker is also really good, but doesn't last as long, and it streaks a little bit more on black cars. So this is why Tech 582. And so what we do, and what you need to do is go ahead and spray your detail spray while the car is still wet. Even if it dries, you can still do this. But basically, the purpose of this is we're adding lubrication. It makes also absorbing the water simpler, and we're killing 2 birds in 1 stone, because what we're doing here is by applying our detail spray, we're sealing the paint. So we're protecting it. We're adding a wax or sealant to it. So that's why using this is really beneficial. And as you can see, it's perfectly nice and dry. And you just repeat the process throughout the whole vehicle. Okay, so here's a very important tip, and this is what separates the professional from the beginner, low quality versus high quality. Entry-level detailer or car wash. As you can see, you need various brushes to get the job done right. And so what happens a lot is, if you look here, this material, we call this usually piano black. And this material here, it's extremely sensitive. Using it normally, to press the buttons and lay your hand and all that, it gets scratched. It gets scratched really easy. But one problem I see a lot of people, a lot of detailers do, is they use a boar's hair brush or something of that nature, which is stiffer by nature, by default, and they go ahead and clean around here. Now, that is a huge mistake because this is too stiff for the piano black. You need to use a dedicated, super soft brush. So this one is so soft, it's like a makeup brush. And basically, as you can see here how dusty it is, what you want to do is you want to have, either you can, usually you have your vacuum on one hand. I just don't want to make the noise of the vacuum. You have your vacuum on one hand, and you take your super soft brush, and you just gently go ahead and wipe off all that piano black material in areas without scratching this surface. And that's the very important part. Now, like I said, not everyone does this. They'll just use whatever brush they're already using. In a steering wheel, it's perfect, no problem. Some of the side panels, but anything piano black, you want to use this very soft brush. Most people just use the same one though. And so that's another important tip and something that you could use. Now, I'm gonna have links for all these if you want to get them. But basically, part of the process too is before, we vacuum the floor, we want to start from the top and go ahead and brush all the loose dust and debris that is trapped in all the crevices and cracks. The air vents, for the air vents, we can use something different, a little more stiffer with longer brushes to get really inside of there. That's fine, no problem. But then we go back to our piano black and we just get everything dislodged, and through gravity should fall a lot of it to the ground. So when you vacuum the floors, you're not doing double the work. You start from the top bottom. Okay, so now here's a tip for vacuuming. When it comes to vacuuming the seats, if you close in here, you're gonna need, I'm gonna show you 2 brushes, and you're gonna see here, if you can close up here, you'll see all kinds of loose debris gets trapped at the edges of your leather seat. And so if you just vacuum it, it might not get it completely. So what you do, if you close up again, is as you have your vacuum, you're gonna put pressure, and basically you're gonna open that crevice, and you're gonna use your brush to go ahead and get inside of the crevice. And obviously the vacuum is not turned on, but it would be picking up everything that I'm dislodging. So again, you put pressure to open up that crevice, and you use your brush to really get in there, and that makes a big difference in the level of fine detailed finish between if you just use the vacuum versus you actually open up these edges and crevices to get the loose debris out. And another thing is, here you can see on the side here, the panel, it's very hard to get. So a brush like this, it's very useful because you can get in here, dislodge, and as you're doing that, using your vacuum, if it was turned on, it would be picking it up. And as you can see, it makes life a lot easier. So that's 2 tips when vacuuming.